For decades, big automakers had one huge advantage. They knew how to build cars at scale, control costs, and keep smaller rivals out of the fight. But affordable EVs are starting to break that old rule. A new wave of electric cars is arriving with prices so low that legacy brands cannot ignore them. These are not tiny toys or golf carts. They are real city cars, with screens, usable range, and enough tech to make expensive models look harder to explain. That is why cheap EVs are becoming dangerous. They are not just lowering prices. They are proving that the old way of building cars may be too slow. To understand why this threatens the entire automotive establishment, you need to understand how car manufacturing traditionally worked. For decades, the biggest automakers survived on what economists call economies of scale. The more cars you could produce, the cheaper each individual car became to manufacture. Ford was not just selling you a truck. They were selling you the result of a century of manufacturing expertise, supplier relationships, and production efficiency that smaller companies simply could not match. This system worked beautifully when cars were primarily mechanical devices. Building an internal combustion engine required specialized knowledge, expensive tooling, and supply chains that took decades to establish. A startup could not just decide to compete with General Motors any more than a garage band could compete with a major record label. Electric vehicles changed everything. When Elon Musk founded Tesla in 2003, industry experts laughed. Not because electric cars were impossible, but because the barriers to entry in automotive manufacturing were considered insurmountable. Those same experts watched Tesla struggle through what Musk famously called production hell, and assumed the traditional automakers would easily crush any electric vehicle competition once they decided to get serious. They were wrong. And the reason they were wrong reveals something profound about how electric vehicles work differently than traditional cars. An electric vehicle is fundamentally a battery on wheels, with a computer controlling everything. The mechanical complexity that protected traditional automakers for a century simply does not exist in electric vehicles. There is no transmission, no exhaust system, no intricate timing of pistons and valves. An electric motor has about 20 moving parts. A gasoline engine has over 2,000. This simplification did not just make cars easier to build, it made them easier to build well. BYD, which started as a battery manufacturer in 1995, could leverage their expertise in energy storage to create vehicles that were not only cheaper than traditional cars, but in many ways superior to them. While American and European automakers spent the early 2000s perfecting hybrid technology and debating whether consumers really wanted electric vehicles, Chinese manufacturers took a different approach. They looked at the global automotive market and asked a simple question: what if we ignored everything the industry considered impossible? Wang Chuanfu, the founder of BYD, had no automotive background. He was a battery engineer who noticed that the most expensive component in any electric vehicle was the battery pack. Instead of buying batteries from suppliers like traditional automakers, BYD decided to manufacture their own. This vertical integration gave them cost advantages that established automakers could not match. But the real breakthrough came from BYD's approach to manufacturing scale. While Ford and General Motors were building massive factories designed to produce hundreds of thousands of identical vehicles, BYD created smaller, more flexible production lines that could adapt quickly to changing market demands. The Seagull is not just cheap because labor costs are lower in China. It is cheap because BYD reimagined the entire manufacturing process. The numbers tell the story. In 2023, BYD sold over 3 million vehicles globally. For context, that is more than Tesla's total production. But here is what is really remarkable. BYD achieved this scale while maintaining profit margins that would make traditional automakers envious. The company reported a net profit margin of roughly 7% in 2023, while Ford's dedicated electric vehicle division, Model E, reported massive multi-billion-dollar losses during the exact same period. This success was not limited to BYD. Chinese automaker Geely, which most Americans know only as the company that owns Volvo, sold over 2.8 million vehicles in 2023. Great Wall Motors, SAIC, and dozens of other Chinese manufacturers are scaling production at rates that traditional automakers are struggling to comprehend. The Chinese government's strategy played a crucial role in this transformation. Instead of protecting their domestic auto industry from foreign competition, China encouraged competition while investing heavily in battery technology and charging infrastructure. Chinese cities installed charging stations faster than American cities installed parking meters. This created a massive domestic market for electric vehicles that allowed Chinese manufacturers to achieve scale advantages before expanding globally. The assumption among traditional automakers was that Chinese vehicles might be cheap, but they would also be inferior in quality and technology. Recent independent testing has shattered this assumption. Vehicles like the BYD Dolphin and Seal have received 5-star safety ratings from the rigorous Euro NCAP testing, equivalent to the absolute highest safety standards in Europe and America. More concerning for traditional automakers, Chinese electric vehicles are often more technologically advanced than their American and European competitors. The BYD Han sedan features a rotating touchscreen display, over-the-air software updates, and autonomous driving capabilities that rival Tesla's autopilot system. The vehicle's battery technology, developed entirely in-house by BYD, offers faster charging and longer lifespan than batteries used by most Western manufacturers. Chinese automakers did not just copy Western technology and make it cheaper, they leapfrogged entire generations of automotive development. While Ford and General Motors were figuring out how to add touchscreens to vehicles designed around traditional instrument clusters, Chinese manufacturers designed vehicles from the ground up as connected devices. The software integration in Chinese electric vehicles represents perhaps the biggest technological advantage. Western automakers typically work with dozens of suppliers to integrate various electronic systems. A Ford vehicle might have software from Microsoft for the infotainment system, software from Bosch for the engine management, and software from Continental for the safety systems. Getting all these systems to work together reliably is extraordinarily complex and expensive. Chinese manufacturers like BYD and NIO developed integrated software platforms that control everything from the air conditioning to the autonomous driving features. This integration does not just reduce costs. It enables functionality that is impossible in traditional vehicles. NIO's vehicles can receive major feature updates through over-the-air downloads, similar to how smartphones receive iOS or Android updates. Understanding why cheap electric vehicles pose such a threat requires understanding how fundamentally different electric vehicle manufacturing is from traditional automotive production. Ford's River Rouge plant in Michigan, once considered the pinnacle of manufacturing efficiency, spans over 2,000 acres and employs over 9,000 workers. The plant can produce 550,000 vehicles annually, but only specific Ford models designed for that exact production line. BYD's manufacturing approach is completely different. Their facilities use modular production systems that can switch between different vehicle models with minimal downtime. The same production line that assembles the Seagull compact car can be reconfigured to produce the Han luxury sedan in a matter of hours, not months. This flexibility provides enormous cost advantages. Traditional automakers spend billions of dollars designing specific production lines for each vehicle model. If consumer preferences shift, those production lines become expensive mistakes. General Motors spent over $1 billion retooling plants to produce the Chevy Volt hybrid, only to discontinue the model after 9 years as the market pivoted away from their specific hybrid design. Chinese manufacturers can respond to market changes faster than traditional automakers can redesign their production processes. When European governments announced plans to ban gasoline vehicle sales by 2035, BYD was able to ramp up production for European markets within 18 months. For comparison, Ford's plan to convert their German facilities to electric vehicle production is scheduled to take 5 years. The cost structure differences are staggering. Ford estimates that their electric vehicle production costs are currently 25% higher than their gasoline vehicle costs. BYD's electric vehicles are profitable at price points where traditional automakers lose money on every sale. Traditional automakers initially dismissed Chinese electric vehicles as a regional phenomenon that would not translate to global markets. This assumption proved disastrously wrong. In 2023, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers captured over 60% of the global electric vehicle market outside the United States. In Europe, Chinese brands went from 0% market share to over 8% in just 2 years. The speed of this market penetration caught European automakers completely off guard. Volkswagen, which had invested over $100 billion in electric vehicle development, watched Chinese competitors gain market share with vehicles that cost half as much to produce and often offered superior technology. The response from traditional automakers has been a mixture of panic and confusion. Ford announced plans to split their electric vehicle division into a separate company, essentially admitting that their traditional business model could not compete with electric vehicle specialists. General Motors delayed multiple electric vehicle launches and scaled back their production targets for 2025. But the most telling response came from Volkswagen CEO Oliver Blume, who admitted in a recent interview that Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers had achieved cost advantages that traditional automakers might never be able to match. This was not a temporary pricing strategy or government subsidies. Chinese manufacturers had fundamentally reimagined how to build cars. The financial markets recognized this shift before the automakers themselves did. Tesla's market capitalization exceeded Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler combined, despite producing far fewer vehicles. BYD's valuation surpassed traditional automakers that had been in business for over a century. Investors were betting that the future of the automotive industry belonged to companies that specialized in electric vehicles, not companies that were trying to transform from gasoline to electric. The United States represents the ultimate test for Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers. American consumers have traditionally preferred larger vehicles with higher profit margins, exactly the market segment where traditional automakers like Ford and General Motors have dominated. The average selling price of a new vehicle in America is over $47,000, compared to less than $20,000 in China. Chinese manufacturers face significant challenges entering the American market. Recent updates by the U.S. government in late 2024 finalized tariffs on Chinese electric vehicles at 100%, effectively doubling the final price and temporarily eliminating much of their inherent cost advantage. Safety regulations require extensive testing and certification processes that can take years. Consumer preferences for trucks and SUVs also do not align perfectly with Chinese manufacturers' initial strengths in compact and mid-size vehicles. But Chinese automakers are already finding ways around these barriers. BYD announced plans to build manufacturing facilities in Mexico, which would eliminate tariff issues through the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. Geely is expanding production at their South Carolina facility, where they manufacture vehicles for their subsidiary brands, including Volvo and Polestar. The real threat to American automakers is not that Chinese companies will immediately capture significant market share in the United States. The threat is that Chinese manufacturers are proving that profitable electric vehicles can be sold at price points that traditional automakers considered impossible. Ford's Mustang Mach-E starts at $46,800. For that price, Chinese manufacturers could potentially sell 3 electric vehicles with similar performance and features. Even if Chinese vehicles capture only 10% of the American market, that represents millions of sales that traditional automakers are losing to more efficient competitors. The competitive pressure from Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers has forced traditional automakers to accelerate their electric vehicle development in ways that are straining their financial resources and organizational capabilities. Ford's plan to invest $50 billion in electric vehicle technology over the next 5 years represents a larger investment than the company's entire market capitalization in some recent periods. General Motors announced that they would stop selling gasoline vehicles entirely by 2035, a commitment that requires completely rebuilding their manufacturing infrastructure and supply chain relationships. The company estimates this transformation will cost over $100 billion, assuming no major technological or market disruptions. But the most significant challenge is not financial, it is cultural. Traditional automakers built their expertise around internal combustion engines, mechanical systems, and incremental improvements to existing technology. Electric vehicles require expertise in battery chemistry, software development, and electronic systems integration. These are fundamentally different skill sets that require different types of engineers and different organizational structures. Ford's attempt to hire software engineers has put them in direct competition with technology companies like Google and Apple for talent. The average salary for a software engineer at Ford is now higher than the average salary for a mechanical engineer, inverting decades of automotive industry pay scales. Despite these efforts, Ford still struggles to develop software capabilities that match Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers who built their companies around software integration from day one. The battery technology gap is particularly problematic for traditional automakers. BYD manufactures their own batteries using lithium iron phosphate chemistry that is cheaper and longer lasting than the lithium-ion batteries used by most Western manufacturers. Western automakers typically purchase batteries from suppliers like LG Chem or Panasonic, which limits their ability to optimize battery performance for their specific vehicles. Tesla recognized this problem early and built their Gigafactory to manufacture batteries at scale. But traditional automakers are years behind in developing similar capabilities. Ford's planned battery manufacturing facilities will not be operational until 2026, giving Chinese manufacturers a multi-year head start in cost optimization and technological development. One of the most overlooked advantages of Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers is their approach to vehicle sales and distribution. Traditional automakers sell vehicles through independent dealer networks that add significant costs and complexity to the customer experience. The average automobile dealer markup is 12 to 15% of the vehicle's wholesale price, which means consumers pay thousands of dollars for a sales process that many find frustrating and time-consuming. Chinese manufacturers like BYD and NIO use direct sales models similar to Tesla. Customers can purchase vehicles online or at company-owned showrooms, eliminating dealer markups and simplifying the buying process. This direct relationship with customers also provides valuable data about consumer preferences and vehicle performance that traditional automakers do not have access to.